welcome to today's Sunday program where we'll be discussing from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Can everybody have a copy of Bhagavad Gita? I'll try to put the words on the screen as well as everybody can. So we are reading from chapter 14, text number 26. I think it should be on the screen also. Yeah. Just in case if somebody wants to follow it on the screen. Yeah. Did everybody get the verse? So, today's discussion is going to be on the three modes of material nature. So, let's just read the verse, and before we begin, we'll start with the invocation prayers, which you can see on the board. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, so first we'll read each word, then we can read the whole sentence. So please repeat after me. Mam Cha Yaha Avyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Saha Gunan Samatitya Etan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. So now we're reciting each sentence. Mam chayo vyabhicharena Bhakti yogena sevate Sagunan samati tyaitan Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Mam chayo vyabhicharena Bhakti yogena sevate Sagunan samati tyaitan Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Mam chayo vyabhicharena Bhakti yogena sevate Sagunan samati tyaitan Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Would anyone like to recite?
Mam chayo vyabhicharena
Mam chayo vyabhicharena
Bhakti yogena sevate Sagunan samatityatam Brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
What else?
Mam chayo vyabhicharena Bhakti yogena sevate Sagunan samatityaitan Brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
मामच्चयो विचारेण भक्ति योगेन सेवते सगुणान समतीतेन ब्रह्म भूयाय कल्पते
योगेन सेवते
सगुणान् समतीतेन
सगुणान् समतीतेन
ब्रह्म भूयाय कल्पते
Okay. So we go through the word-to-word translations. Please repeat after me. Mam, unto me. Cha, also. Yaha, a person who. Avyabhicharena, without fail. Bhakti yogena, by devotional service. Sevate, renders service. Saha, he. Gunan, the modes of material nature. Samatitya, transcending. Etan, all these. Brahma Bhuyaya, elevated to the Brahman platform. Kalpate, becomes. Translation and purport. Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. One who engages in full devotional service and fighting in all circumstances at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Please repeat after me. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Perfect. This verse is a reply to Arjuna's third question: what is the means of attaining to the transcendental position? As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna, but his different plenary expansions, such as Rama and Narayana. He has innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or of his plenary expansions is considered to be transcendentally situated. One should also know that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent and omniscient, and they possess all transcendental qualities. So if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, one can overcome them easily. This has already been explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire equality with Krishna. The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme. As gold particles are part of a gold mine, thus the living entity in his spiritual position is as good as gold, as good as in Krishna in quality. The difference of individuality continues, otherwise there will be no portion of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means that the Lord is there, the devotee is there, and the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual person. Otherwise, there would be no meaning to Bhakti Yoga. If one is not situated in a transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. To be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahman, or freed from all material contamination. It is said in the Vedic literature, Brahmeva san Brahmapyeti. One can attain the Supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with Brahman. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman identity as an individual Brahman. Okay. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurveditamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Yera Bhutale Svayam Rupakara Hindalati Siddhantikam Ade Shri Guru Shri Prabhupada Gunam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Chatam Sagra Gunathanam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Savanam Shri Shankharisam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are in chapter 14, which is the three modes of material nature. Actually, I just made a picture for today's session and I'm just trying to bring it up on the screen. That's possible. Yeah. Can everybody see that? Yeah. So today's discussion is about the three modes of material nature. So, three modes of material nature. What are the three modes of material nature? We'll be discussing it. I'll ask you later on. So, before we get into the discussion of the three modes of material nature, first we need to understand some basic principles. If you have listened to my lectures before, I always stress this point a lot before I get into any subject matter of Bhagavad Gita. That is about the identity of the living entity. So, as we know, Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Lord Shri Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And this conversation took place because Arjuna was bewildered on the battlefield. And he was bewildered because he did not know what to do. He was in the battlefield, he has to fight against his own family, his own relatives, his own kinsmen. And in that position, in that situation, instead of doing his duty, he got bewildered. And this is not an ordinary thing for a person like Arjuna. Arjuna is a person who fought many battles. But here, especially in this battle, he was bewildered because he has to fight against his own family members. So, the reason why he got bewildered is because of his consciousness. Because his consciousness was misdirected. His consciousness was covered. Arjuna is a great devotee and certainly, he is very intelligent. He need not be bewildered. But he was put into such a situation so that, today, so that Krishna might speak Bhagavad Gita and today we might be benefited by this knowledge. So, using Arjuna as an instrument, Krishna is giving us this sublime knowledge. So, the first reason why Arjuna was bewildered is because, as I said, his consciousness was polluted. And how his consciousness was polluted is because he was identifying himself with the body. So because he was identifying himself with the body, everything which he was seeing in connection to his body. So now he has to fight against his enemies, but instead of seeing them as his enemies, he's seeing them as his own relatives. And it's because he's thinking that they are his relatives, he's feeling bewildered. So this is all because of connection. He's thinking, I am this body, and I am born to a certain parents, and this is my grandfather, this is my father, this is my uncle, these are my cousins, and now I have to fight against my own people. So that is what bewildered him. So actually the cause of all the problems which we see in our life is because of this missing factor, or this crucial point, that we identify ourselves with the body. So as soon as we identify ourselves with the body, there is a lot of anxiety. All the anxiety comes from bodily identification. This is mine. I am such and such. And when we get certain things, we think that, oh, I got it, so I'm happy. When we lose certain things, how can I lose? It's mine. I lost it. And then we feel bewildered. We feel anxious. In the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, and one of the first teachings what Prahlad Maharaj gives to his father was, Tat sadhamanya asuravarya dehna sada samudvigna dhiyam asadgraha hitvatma patham grahananda kopam anandaguyat dharimashvayata sadam tat sadhamanya asuravarya dehna, O great genius. He addresses his father as a great demon. He does not address his father as a father or someone like that, but he addresses him as a great demon. And he says that people in this material world are always anxious, always worrying after something. Why? Because they have accepted something which is unreal as real. So all these bodily connections which we have, they're all unreal. Unreal in the sense, it's not that that we are dreaming or everything is an illusion, but it's by nature they are all temporary, and we expect them to be permanent. And when our expectation fails, we become broken-hearted and we fall into anxiety. So this is the main reason why we all face this anxiety, and that same anxiety multiplied to 100 times or 1,000 times was what Arjuna was feeling on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Not at all ordinary, it's extraordinary in the sense a warrior like him, lost his composure, his hands were sweating, his bow slipped from his hand, and he sat in a helpless condition because he had to fight against his own men. So that's the cause of all the anxieties. And the first teaching what Krishna gives to Arjuna is that we are not this body. We are the spirit soul. And everything is temporary, but we are eternal. So Big Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Mamayavamsho jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, manashashtani indriyani prakritistani karshati. Now all these living entities whom we see, who are in these bodies, they are all parts and parcels of Krishna. We are all parts and parcels of Krishna. Mamev amsha, amsha means part and parcel. We are all parts and parcels of Krishna. And we are all around this universe, We are spirit soul, and there are so many living entities, and we are all parts and parcels of Krishna. It's not just the human beings are parts and parcels of Krishna. Animals, plants, everything, they're all parts and parcels of Krishna. And what are we doing? We are by nature eternal, but we are in this temporary material body, and we expect the body to be eternal. So everybody likes to live forever, right? But and everybody is afraid of death. Why? Because by nature we are eternal, and we never died. But because we accepted this body, and this body dies, and we identify ourselves with the body, we think that because I am the body, I am dying, which is unnatural for us. So that creates a lot of fear in us. But by nature, we are eternal. And Krishna also says that just as, when we, just as we accept so many clothes, and when the clothes become useless, we give up this cloth and we accept another cloth. Similarly, we are in a particular body, and when the body becomes useless, we accept another body. So we are all parts and parcels of Krishna. So, and now we are in this material world. So this material world is nothing but Krishna's energy. So if we see this same 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, what's the verse? Sarva yonishu kunteya murteya sambhavantiya tasam brahma mahatyonir aham bija pradapita. This material nature is like a mother, and Krishna is the seed-giving father. And Krishna, so when mother and father, when they combine together, then there is progeny. So we wanted to enjoy independent of Krishna. So actually Krishna is the only enjoyer. We are all enjoyed. But because of our rebellious nature against Krishna that we want to enjoy, instead of giving Krishna the enjoyment, So Krishna, it's not possible in the spiritual world that we become the enjoyer and Krishna is sitting aside in the corner. Krishna is the enjoyer. But because Krishna is very compassionate, and because we are rebelling against Krishna, that we want to enjoy independent to Krishna, Krishna has created this material world where he has given us the power to enjoy independently from Krishna. So, in order to send us to this material world, he used the material nature as a mother. And Krishna, he himself is the Supreme Father. So, when this mother and father combined, then the living entities came into this material world. Just as in the material world as well, that when man and woman unite, when there is children. So similarly, that's the same how we came to this material world. So this material world, material nature is like our mother. So when we come to this material nature, so we want to enjoy, right? So Krishna has to give us some facility to enjoy this material world. So the material world has its own byproducts as well. So that the byproducts of this material world are the three modes of material nature. So there are the three modes of material nature. What are the three modes?
Mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness.
Very good. That's why I stopped in the beginning, because I'm anyway going to come to that. So now we're going to discuss about the three modes of material nature. So the products of the material nature are these three modes. So the living entity, he wants to enjoy independently to Krishna. So how he could enjoy is by the medium of these three modes. So how because this living entity is in material world, in order to enjoy the matter, he has to accept matter, and the matter he accepts is this material body. So there are the modern day scientists, they are trying to analyze all the species in the material world and so on, but I don't know what's the number they have got, but the Shastras have got the exact number of how many species are there in this material world. There are 8,400,000 species in this material world. And how did this 8,400,000 species come into existence? That's because of these modes of material nature. So, in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Purusha prakrutistho hi bhunte prakriti jangunan karanam gunasangasya sadasat janmayonishvam. So, this living entity is superior when compared to this material nature. And this living entity is exploiting the resources of material nature. So, the living entity, whatever modes of material nature he associates with, that nature helps him to develop his next body. So this is how the living entity is enjoying in this material world, or utilizing this material world for his own enjoyment. Suppose, as we said, there are the three modes of material nature, right? The mode of goodness, the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance. So the living entity wants to enjoy the mode of passion. So he acts in the mode of passion, and the material nature arranges him in the next life a body which is made up of the mode of passion, so that he can enjoy the mode of passion to the fullest extent. So now let's get, so this is how the transmigration of the soul takes place. Based on the nature which we acquire, where based on the nature which we associate with, that develops the next body, so that the living entity can enjoy that nature to the fullest extent. So, as we said, we need a physical body to enjoy the material nature. So we have this 8,400,000 species of life. So these are all different grades of living entities, right? So how did this 8,400,000 species come into existence? That is also by the mixture of these three modes of material nature. So, Prabhupada gives an example. Just like you have these three colors, right? The primary colors, red, blue, and green, right? So by the combination of these three colors, you can make unlimited colors. So similarly, by the combination of the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, these 8,400,000 species are made. Prabhupada says that there are three modes of material nature, right? Multiply the 3 with 3, you get 9, and you multiply the 3 with you multiply that also. That 9 times 9, you get 81, and you add 3 more, that becomes 84, and then you multiply it to 1,000,000 times, and you get 8,400,000 species. So this is how, by the combination of the three modes of material nature, you get different types of living entities. So I think it comes in the Hitopanishad, that how these 8,400,000 species are classified. Stavarani Lakshavimshati, Krimayorudu Sampuda. Anyway, I'm not getting the right words. But the Shastras give exact number. There are 900,000 species of aquatics. There are 2,400,000 species of plants, trees, herbs, everything. And 24, we got 20, right? That's 29. And then there are 400,000 species of human beings, and the rest are all insects and beasts. So based on the three modes of material nature, different bodies are made. Suppose if we see certain animals, take for example the trees. The trees, they have no consciousness. They can feel, but they cannot respond. So we get the information from the Shastras that the trees are the bodies which are in the mode of ignorance. They can feel, but they cannot respond. Like that. And whatever you do, they have to just tolerate. So these are completely ignorance, and they can stand for millions and millions of lifetimes, but they don't feel the pain because they're in the ignorance that they can't feel anything. Even in the midst of severe winter, a tree is just like that. In a severe heat, because ignorance, it's intense ignorance, it can't feel anything. And similarly, we see there are some animals which are completely in the mode of passion. You see lions, tigers, they're in the mode of passion. They hunt for their prey. So these are the living entities in the mode of passion. And similarly, we have some exalted high-grade living entities who are living in the higher planetary systems, like the demigods and the sages and things like that. They are in the mode of goodness. They are uncontaminated. So like this, there are 8,400,000 species of living entities, which are nothing but the combination of the three modes of material nature. So actually in Sanskrit, the three modes of material nature are called Triguna. So three means it's a Sanskrit word which came to English as well. Three means nothing but the number 3. So guna means the modes. So the word guna actually in Sanskrit means a rope. And we are all bound by these three modes of material nature. So as you see in the picture behind, so these are the three modes of material nature, and they're binding us by this rope. So guna means this rope, and based on the nature which we associate, they make us act in a particular way, and they bind us in this material world. So this whole 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it explains how these three modes of material nature bind us. For example, let's take the mode of goodness. So the mode of goodness also binds us. Shall we go mode of goodness to ignorance or ignorance to mode of goodness? Let's follow Krishna's order. Krishna first said about the mode of goodness. So Krishna says, Tatra Satvam Nirmalatvam Prakashakamamayam Sukha Sangena Vadhyamati Nan Sangena Chanava. So the mode of goodness binds the living entity. How does it bind the living entity? Is by knowledge and by happiness. So Prabhupada in the Prabhupada, he says that there are people who are in a mode of goodness, like even in our own circle or society, we can say, like the scientists or the artists or philosophers, they are considered to be in a mode of goodness because they act intellectually. They're always situated in knowledge. Material or spiritual doesn't matter. They're in some knowledge. So we can say they're in a mode of goodness to a certain extent. But the mode of goodness makes one complacent and binds one to this material world. They think that, I'm in knowledge, so I know how the world works, and I'm happy in this world, and I need not think about spiritual life or anything, I'm happy. So sometimes people say, right, why should I do bhakti? Why should I do devotional service? I'm happy in my life, I have everything in my life. Why should I be a devotee? Why should I pray to God? So this is how the mode of goodness binds one in this material world. Then comes the mode of passion. Rajo Ragatmika Vidhi Krishna Sangha Samudbhavam Karma Sangena Adhinati Tan Karma Sangena Chanaka Tani Badhnati Kaundeya Karma Sangena Chanabadha. So then comes the mode of passion. The mode of passion is by its name itself very passionate. It makes the living entity work to the fullest extent, to its fullest core. Person wants to work like anything. Work, it is like, what's that saying? They have work hard and enjoy, something like that. So you have to get it. Come on, you can do it. People have unrealistic dreams. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get it. And this is how the mode of passion. And they don't think of anything else. I have my goals in my life. I need to achieve them. And until I achieve them, I won't stop. And that's their life and soul. And they don't want to think anything beyond it. That's how the mode of passion binds a living entity. So, and for that, to achieve their desired result, they are ready to undergo any kind of perseverance or any kind of pain. Trishna, the word Trishna is used here. Trishna means like hard endeavor, hardcore endeavor. They'll reduce their sleep, they'll do this, they'll do that. Somehow or the other, get it. That like that. In that way, the mode of passion binds living entity. And then comes the mode of ignorance. This is, Krishna describes, this is the most dangerous of all the modes. The mode of ignorance. Tamas tvajnanajam vidhi mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalasya netrabhis tani badhnati bharata. So this mode of ignorance is built on the basis of ignorance, in a sense, no knowledge, ajnana. The foundation of this mode in itself is ignorance. And it's very dangerous in the sense it keeps the living entity in illusion. Such an illusion that you don't know what's going on. The word used exactly is delusion. It's called pramada. Pramada means delusion. You're doing something wrong. People, just imagine the drug addicts. They're taking drugs. They're living a horrible life. Homeless. But they're so much addicted. So that's the state of delusion. They know they're doing something wrong, and but they're so much addicted to doing it that they cannot come out of it. So this is one way the mode of ignorance binds the living entity. That's pramada and laziness. This is another quality of the mode of ignorance. Laziness, pramada, alas, nidra, too much sleep. So these are all the qualities of the mode of ignorance. So in this way, we are associating with different modes, and then we are enjoying and suffering in this material world. So here, coming back to this verse, So before this verse, Krishna gives a detailed explanation about, how these modes bind the living entity, how the living entity suffers and enjoys, and what are the destinations, the living entity reaches by associating with a particular mode. So then Arjuna became very curious. Okay, so how to come out of these three modes of material nature then? The aim of life is to get out of all these bondages, to cut these gunas, the strong ropes which are binding us in this material world. Do you see in this picture how these three modes are, making them act like? So this similarly, we don't see, these ropes, but these ropes are there and they are making us act in a particular way. So the only way we can cut these ropes, and that's what Arjuna wanted to know as well, is by the devotional service. So here in this verse, Krishna says, Avyabhicharini bhakti, unflinching devotional service. Means that devotional service which doesn't fail in any circumstance. It's only by such a devotional service one can break through these ropes of material nature and be situated in the platform of Brahman. So, Prabhupada said in the purport that, Krishna is Parabrahman and we are Brahman. The Vedic knowledge starts with, as I said, identification. So we are not this body, we are the spirit soul. We are entrapped in this body, we are acting under the modes of material nature. And, and we need to come to the stage of Brahman. So here Krishna says that by unflinching, determined devotional service, one can break through these modes of material nature. But Krishna also says that these modes of material nature are very, very difficult to overcome as well. In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Taivi hyesha gunamayi mama maya duratya mameva prapadyante maya meta tarantite. This maya, material nature, which entraps us in this material world by means of these three modes, it's very difficult to overcome. But the only way we can overcome them is by surrendering unto Krishna. How we can surrender unto Krishna? That's explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll get to that. But okay, I think probably I can explain that as well. How we can surrender unto Krishna. So, as it is said here, by means of devotional service, when we can break these modes of material nature. So, in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the encyclopedia of devotional service, so what we are discussing now is called Samandha Jnana, in the sense knowing our identity with Krishna, who we are, what is our relationship, and how to establish this relationship with Krishna is explained detailedly in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavad Gita is called Samandha. Bhagavad Gita actually explains about this Samandha Jnana, that who we are, what is our condition, and also gives us this means how to get out of this condition, but a more detailed, elaborate description on how to apply the principles given in Bhagavad Gita is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Krishna here, she says that by devotional service, we can transcend these modes of material nature. But how exactly, what we need to do in order to break through these modes of material nature is elaborately explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. I can quickly say those verses actually, but I need to be really quick because we are time bound. This is another nature in this material world, that everything is temporary, everything is restrained. So, if you see the first canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna saying, it's actually Sutta Goswami who says that Shushrushrosha Dadhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syamahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevana. Sometimes people say that I do not have any affinity for devotional service. I do not feel like chanting today. I do not feel like coming to the temple. I don't feel it, that's why I feel like not doing it. So why does this feeling comes? It's because a person is not addicted to serving the devotees. So by serving great devotees, one gets this affinity to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. To serve by serving the devotees, you feel more serving. And you get a taste as well to chant. You get a taste to read. You get a taste to engage in devotional service. So the root is you need to serve the devotees. That's one thing. And the verse after this comes, Shrunvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantastokya Bhagavani Vidhunati Suhritsatam. And constantly hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, constantly hearing Bhagavad Gita, which increase the piety in a living entity. It's Punya Shravana Kirtana. It's just by hearing it, you need not do anything, just put it on and just hear. It will have its own effect on you. You serve the devotees, you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and what happens next is Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatnaishtiki. So by constantly hearing these messages of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, all the impurities which are there in our heart, we have so many impurities. By the association of these modes of material nature, we are developing further more impurities. There are so many impurities like lust, greed, anger, envy, animosity, so many things. It's not like some dirt on our body that we can just dust it off. There's something which are in our mind. There is no physical means of cleaning them. The only means of cleaning all the dirt which is there within our minds is by hearing. It's the hearing process, the sound vibrations which go into our heart, which touch our heart and which clean all the impurities which are there in our heart. And when all the impurities are clean, then we come to the stage of nishtha, in the sense, that stage where we are consistent in our devotional service. We don't feel that thing, like I said, I'm not feeling like chanting. I'm not feeling like coming to the temple. I'm not feeling like doing this service. This thing will be gone from our life. We come to the state of nishtha. And when we come to the next state of nishtha, then what happens is, Tada rajastamo bhava kamalo bhadayastule cheta etayaranavidham sthidam sattve prasidhati. So, tada rajastamo bhava. Raja means the mode of passion. Tama means the mode of ignorance. So, by constantly doing that, the effects of the modes of passion and ignorance, which make us think in such a ways, they completely get erased off from our minds and hearts. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalo bhadayasthe. All this lust and all these other impurities which are, there in our minds and hearts from innumerable lifetimes, they immediately become washed off. Your heart will become clean. You can be a good person in the society. Everybody will appreciate you. And you can become, most importantly, a first-class devotee of Krishna. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalo bhadayasthe cheta etayar anavidham sthidam sattve prasidhati. Then we can immediately come to this platform of the mode of goodness. And what happens when these lower modes are gone, that is explained in Bhagavad Gita and also in Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Brahmabhuta prasannata. Like in this verse, Krishna says, one becomes situated in the Brahman platform. So, what is the Brahman platform? As soon as we get rid of these three modes of material nature, we get situated in the Brahman platform. And what is the Brahman platform? Brahman platform, Krishna explains as Brahmabhuta prasannatma na shochati na kamshati samas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. Brahmabhuta is like a stage where you are prasannatma, in the sense you are completely satisfied in your life. You don't need anything else. Prasannatma, you're completely happy. Prasanna, it's happy. Tashochati na kamshati. There's nothing for you to hanker after, and there's nothing to run after. Or to hanker after, or nothing to lament also. Suppose we do not have something, we lament for it. And we have something, then that's another anxiety. So our whole existence is based on these two things. We are either hankering after something or we are lamenting after something. Why I have this? So Brahma Bhuta is a stage where you are neither hankering nor you are lamenting. And you can equally treat all the living entities. You can treat all the living entities equally. In the sense you don't have any friends or enemies. You see everybody equally. You are in that position. And then, that the kind of devotional service one performs is it's like first class, topmost devotional service, pure devotional service, unalloyed devotional service. So that is the Brahman stage. So unless we get rid of these three modes of material nature, we cannot come to that Brahman stage where we can be happy throughout our whole life. And Bhagavatam also says something similar. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnana mukta sangasya jayate. So when we get rid of these three modes of material nature, so we, like Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, we become prasanna. Bhagavatam also says, evam prasanna manaso, our mind will be happy. There won't be any anxiety in our mind. Bhagavad Bhakti Yoga, then Bhagavad Tattva Vijnana, we can understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. This Tattva or the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it cannot be easily understood. But the moment we engage ourselves in devotional service, the moment we get rid of the three modes of material nature, all this Vedic knowledge, it becomes revealed to us. Sometimes devotees say, I read this verse, I couldn't understand what it means. But that's because we are a conditioned soul. We are covered by ignorance. So we cannot understand it, and that's completely natural for us to not able to understand it because we are conditioned. Unless and until we get rid of this conditioning, we cannot understand. So how to get rid of this conditioning? Serving devotees, engaging in services of Krishna, and regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and the other Vedic literatures. So in that way, we can get rid of these three modes of material nature and become happy in our life. So I can go on further, but I need to stop now for some questions. So I think before I stop, I wanted to share one verse actually. I wanted everybody, because we just passed Narasimha Chaturdashi, there's one nice beautiful verse of Nrsimhadev. It's praying to Lord Nrsimhadev to help us come out of these three modes of material nature. I think I know this verse, but I thought I'd share with everybody so that that's the purpose. We want everybody to be happy and everybody know the formula to escape these modes of material nature and finally come back to Godhead. So, did I share the wrong verse? Oops. I think I did that.
We can see it, 1426.
That's the verse which we spoke on through. There is another verse actually. I'm just getting it. Actually, I need to keep switching actually. So, do you see another verse?
Scroll it down, please.
Okay, yes. So this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18, which is prayers offered by the residents of Jambudvipa. So Prahlad Maharaj is also one of the residents of Jambudvipa, and this is a verse which Prahlad Maharaj and all the devotees, they recite this verse to worship Lord Nrsimhadev. So, and this verse is very powerful. Prabhupada wanted all the ISKCON devotees to learn this verse. And it's especially powerful because it helps us get rid of these three modes of material nature. So, you all can repeat after me. You can see it on the board. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. Namaste Tejase. Avirabir Bhava. Vajranakha Vajratamstra. Karmashayan Randhaya. Randhaya Tamo. Grasa Om. Svaha. Abhayam Atmani Bhuvishta. Shraum.
Om
Shraum.
So, would anyone like to read the translation?
I
Any
offer
volunteers?
my respectable obeisances unto Lord Narasimha, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possess nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. So, let us all pray to Lord Narasimha. We just passed the Narasimha Chaturdashi, so that Lord Narasimha help us, transcend these modes of material nature, and especially the mode of ignorance, as we discussed how dangerous it is. So I'll stop it there. Thank you very much. If there are any questions or comments or reflections, they're welcome. Yes, Prabhu.
Who killed Narasimha?
Who killed?
Narasimha.
Nobody killed Narasimha.
No, yes. Sharaba.
Sharaba. Where did you hear them?
Sharaba killed.
Where did you hear?
There's a time for Sharaba. Once he became a bit torture to some people, and Lord Vishnu commanded the god. They combined to maintain the 8 elephants with the god head. His name was Sharba, who finished him in a second.
Anyway, there could be many, but if we accept the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam, so if it is stated in the revealed scriptures, we'll accept that. So let's go in the route of Guru Sadhana Shastra. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Any questions? Yes, please.
I think you mentioned that the trees are in the mode of ignorance.
Yeah.
And that animals like tigers, lions, are kind of more in the mode of passion.
Yeah.
Do you have an example of an animal that's perhaps in the mode of ignorance, not a human being?
There are many actually. I cannot take a particular name, but it's also, it's not just in a mode of passion, but there is all these living entities, we have these 3 modes in different proportions. So it's like, for example, like I gave this lion example. So lion is like a kind of species where you have high dose of mode of passion, but less doses of passion and ignorance. So similarly, there is this, like these 3 graphs, there's up and down. So it's not like completely passionate and no goodness or ignorance, but it's like a mix of all. So based on that mixture, it's like these colors, I said, you mix different colors and you get different, resultant colors. But it's not the resultant color is not the original. It's not just the original color, but it's a mixture of all.
Okay, good.
Like that. But trees are also, even in trees we have medicinal trees. So in a mode of ignorance also they have some goodness. So they are doing some benefit to the human society. So it's like a mixture of all this. So this is like that's why it's very difficult to understand how these 3 modes are, are there in different proportions, which make up different living entities. So for one example, we can confidently say that Brahma, is in a mode of goodness. Because unless one is completely in a mode of goodness, one cannot live in the Brahma Loka, the planet where he stays. So you need to be completely in a mode of goodness to stay there. So those who are residents of Brahma Loka or higher planetary systems, they have the highest proportion of the mode of goodness. So we are in these middle planetary systems where the proportion of the mode of passion is very much higher. So in the lower planetary systems, the proportion of the mode of ignorance is high. So it's very tricky how the modes are arranged in a way that we get different bodies. And actually, I wanted to say this also, that for those who want to know more about the modes of material nature, get a copy of Bhagavad Gita, read it. Because the type of food we eat, the modes affect it. The type of work we do, modes affect it. The type of renunciation we do, modes affect it. The type of devotional service we do. Devotional service is supposed to be transcendental, but sometimes, when we don't do it properly, it also comes under the modes. everything which we do is under the three modes of material nature. That's why it's very important to transcend these modes of material nature. Yeah. Any more questions or reflections?
The animal horse has given a lot of contribution in the war, in Yuddha.
Yes.
And what is identity in that? Like identity of the horse.
What's the identity of your horse?
Like we are like has it's about like lion, tiger, like some Narasimha is like only the lion.
No, don't compare animals with the Lord. It's not the same. Like because lion is like there's nothing. There's no correlation between the lion and him. So Krishna is transcendental. So it's not. You cannot compare him with animals or things like that. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your enlightenment. Can I respond to that query?
Yes, please.
So all of us are embodied souls, whether we are human or an animal, and we are all servants to Lord. This is my understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all servants of Krishna. Yeah. Yes, please, bro.
I mean, this is a general question. Like, we are into Vasuśrestha Dāsa.
Yes.
They say that you need to maintain Madhyama Bhava. You need to strike a balance in everything you do and all. Now, for someone who is trying to take care of children, trying to take care of the wife who is dependent on him, at the same time trying to please the employer and all that, it's quite difficult to renunciate everything and just surrender yourself to devotional service. So is there any way that comes? Because even Buddha also told that you need to maintain an equilibrium between everything, whatever you do and all. So how do you explain that?
Yeah. So, thank you, bro. It's a very nice question. So, Prabhu's question is, we are in Grihastha ashram, so, how can we do full-fledged devotional service, like we see our advanced devotees doing full surrender, something similar. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that in one of the bhajans, it doesn't matter in which ashram we are in or in which social order we are in, we can all become great devotees. So grihasthas can also become great devotees. For example, if we see Srimad Bhagavatam, all the devotees who are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam are all grihasthas, and they are such a great devotees that they are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, and everybody is following their example. And they are not just grihasthas or householders, but they are all kings. King is not an ordinary person. King means you have access to, all the sense gratification, all the luxuries in life, and amidst all these luxuries, to be a devotee is the toughest thing, It's like, think a mendicant or someone like a sadhu or monk, they don't have anything. Okay, it makes sense, they don't have anything, they're not enjoying, so they can be good devotees of Krishna. What about those who have everything and then becoming a devotee of Krishna? So that's a tricky thing. But devotees, if you see throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, they were all great kings, and they were not just kings of some small province or anything like that. They were kings of the whole world. Like we have Arjuna here. Arjuna was proposing the same thing, like, why am I entangled in this thing? I cannot do devotional service. Let me leave everything and go just do devotional service. But Krishna said, no, get up. What you're thinking is nonsense. Come, you need to do. For you, fighting in itself is devotional service. So, for grihasthas, actually Prabhupada says in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in one of the purpose that, that one of the aims of devotional service is one should not be entangled with wife, home, family, children, etc. It's one of the aims of knowledge. But Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita that if a grihastha can do 4 things in his life, he need not give up his grihastha life. He can continue, but he can become a great devotee as well. First thing is, all the family members should come together and chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Everybody should chant Hare Krishna in the family, and they should chant congregationally also. And the second is, there should be a regular recitation or hearing of books like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, so regular scriptural, discussions. And the third thing is worshipping of deities. So one should worship Krishna. If not deities, pictures, but you worship Krishna. And the fourth thing is taking only Krishna prasad, whatever food that is offered to Krishna. If a grihastha can maintain all these four things, for him, he need not give up his wife, own family, children, etc. Just by staying in the same ashram, one can become a great devotee. He has to, if he can maintain these four things. So it doesn't matter